We are going to start with all the uniform evaluations. So Cadet Haslam, why don't you come forward? You're going to start your class.
Light, attend, hut! In one report. I'm one of our president accounted for, sir. In two report.
All present accounted for, sir, with the exception of Kramer, sir.
Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Element one, all in.
Why don't you have the people in blues come in at once? People in blues, come up front. Everybody else can sit down.
How are you doing today, Cadet?
Outstanding, sir.
Look good in your blues. Got everything just right. You're 100% for today.
Thank you, sir.
How are you doing today, Cadet?
Outstanding, sir.
You got your blues. You got everything. You look good?
Is
100%.
Cadet Bean's back pocket buttoned?
Sir, I do not have a button to button it with.
So what would you do if you were a professional?
Talk to Colonel Kemper to get it fixed, but I have not had the opportunity to do that yet, sir.
Okay. So he gets a 0 because he's not in uniform. Okay.
Okay. How are you doing today, Cadet?
Outstanding, sir.
You got your blues.
Yes, sir.
Everything's in order. You're 100% for today.
Thank you, sir.
How are you doing today, Cadet?
Outstanding, sir.
You got your blues. Everything looks good. You earned 100% for today.
Thank you, sir.
How are you doing today, Cadet?
Outstanding, sir.
You got your blues. Everything looks good. You earned 100% for today.
Thank you, sir.
Cadets, fall out.
Okay, orientation year cadets. Front center, please.
How are you doing today, Cadet?
Outstanding, sir.
Professional wear, shirt, tucked in, belt. Everything looks good. You earned 100% for today.
Thank you, sir.
How are you doing today, Cadet?
Outstanding, sir.
You got your t-shirt, tucked in, got your belt. Everything looks good. You earned 100% for today.
Thank you, sir.
How are you doing today, Cadet?
Outstanding, sir.
You got your shirt, belt, shirt tucked in. Everything looks good. You earned 100% for today.
What kind of pants is he supposed to have?
Oh, yes. Long pants. You do not have long pants. You've earned 0, but you will be able to make up 75% tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
How are you doing today, Cadet?
Outstanding, sir.
You got your t-shirt,
Yes, sir.
shirt tucked in, belt. Everything looks good. You earned 100% for today.
Thank you, sir.
Cadets, all out.
All right, make sure you record all that, Haslam. All right, Haslam, come up here and let the cadets. Who are the two people that got 0s? Bean and Walensky. Come up here and inspect Cadet Haslam.
Outstanding, sir.
You have belt, right pants, shirt tucked in. All right, congratulations, Cadet. You get out. Good.
Thank you, sir.
You have a, let me see it. All right, everybody, please turn your books to page 300. Where were you?
I was talking to one of my teachers about my grade.
Who?
Miss James.
Miss who?
James.
James. Did you wear a uniform?
No, I've rushed out to do it.
You guys just lost extra credit. You didn't wear a uniform today. Did you get a call this weekend?
No.
You gave me the wrong number. I tried texting you, but somebody sent me a text back.
Cadet Kramer, what do I have to do to get you in uniform so that you can pass my class?
Get her the right number right now because I have my phone on me.
It's not her responsibility that you wear your uniform.
Oh, I thought, okay. Well, can I give her the right number right now then?
What do I have to do to get you to wear the uniform so you can pass our class?
I don't know. I forgot this morning, sir.
Did you remember last Monday?
No, did everyone else? No. I wasn't the only one.
You are this time.
I am this time. I forgot this one.
When's the next uniform day?
Monday.
Okay. Give him a 0. How many people got recalled this weekend? How many people did not get recalled? Besides Cadet Kramer. Anybody else, did everybody else got called except Cadet Kramer?
Can I give her the right number now, sir?
Sure, please do that. It's not their responsibility for you to wear a uniform. I'll tell you what, that's a weak excuse. There's no excuse. All right, page 300 then. We're going to go over the Constitution here. Continue on to the other articles. A PIO here. Okay. Articles of the Constitution. We went over this last time. We talked about Article 1, 2, and 3. What does 1, 2, and 3 cover, guys?
Legislative, executive, and judicial assurance.
LEJ, right? LEJ, real easy to do. We went on Article 1. We were into Article 1. We're trying to learn the vocabulary. Bottom of page 300. What does enumeration mean?
Census or population count?
Population count. How did we count the people in the population when we wrote the Constitution?
Census.
Census, exactly. Who counted for the census?
Voters. Why do you own land?
People who own land. What does the Constitution say? How do we judge whether or not?
Be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed 3/5 of all other persons.
So if you taxed Indians, you could count them, right? But if you didn't tax them, you didn't. And 3/5 of other persons meant who?
Slaves.
Blacks, right? African Americans. Okay? Right, slaves essentially.
What if they were free, sir?
Well, it says right there. What does it say? You tell me.
Which shall be determined.
The whole number of free persons. Okay? There were people, I don't know, 8%, 10%. There were not many. But there are free blacks, free whites, free Caribbeans, descent. They were there. All righty. What about impeachment on Section 3? We talk about Section 3 of the Senate. What does impeachment powers means?
The power to challenge or put into court a law or something that's been made. So
Have we ever impeached anybody in America?
Well,
yes,
we were going
impeached
to, but
multiple
they
presidents.
resigned.
Who are we going to impeach?
Nixon.
Nixon. Yes, the president. We were impeaching him, and he resigned. Who else came under a threat of impeachment? Clinton. So, all right, let's say we're going to impeach old man Clinton. How do we do that? How's it looking there? Who's the president of the Senate, guys, by your Constitution? Who's the president of the Senate? Who? The vice president is the president of the Senate. Exactly. The Senate will have the sole power to try all impeachments. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person will be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. So in the Senate, how many people do we have in the Senate? How many does it take to impeach a president?
All of them?
What did I just say? What does section 3, number 6 mean? How many people do you need to convict somebody of impeachment?
2/3 of the members present, so 66 people.
There you go, 66, right? You have to 67, 2/3, 66, 67. So when he came up for impeachment, they voted for Clinton, and guess what? You didn't have 2/3, so he was not impeached. So he was threatened with impeachment. He was brought to trial, but he was not impeached. He got away with it. So this is how we have the checks and balances. Our judicial section, our executive section branch is controlled or has a checks and balance with our legislative. We can actually pull a president out of his office by 2/3 of the votes of the Senate. How come the House of Representatives don't play in here? Why do the House of Representatives not play? Can the House of Representatives kick the president out? No, not at all. It's just not the way it's written. Okay, probably came from the British way, that the House of Lords, right, who were very few people, were in charge of the whole British world. And when they wrote it, they probably gave more power to the Senate to do this.
Wait, so they could impeach kings in Britain, sir?
I'm sorry, what now?
They could impeach kings in Britain, sir?
No, they couldn't impeach them, but I'm saying the House of Lords, which was their smaller branch, was sort of like our Senate. There's only 100 senators, right? And so they gave more power to the Senate because the House of Lords had a lot more power than the House of Commons in that. All righty, so section 4. We get into section 4. It talks about meetings. And section 5, I'll tell you what, how about congressional salaries? Section 6, who can please read that on section 302?
Senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for the services to be ascertained by law and paid out to the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses and in going to the returning of the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any officer under the United States shall be a member of either house during this continuance in office.
So what does it mean? What does section 6 mean?
That they're not going to arrest the senators while they're in trial.
Well, that the congressmen get paid, right? We all get paid, and it also says that you can't have multiple offices, right? You cannot be a senator and then also a governor of a state, right? You can't be postmaster general and be House of Representatives, okay? You have to have one or the other, which makes sense, and that again is a separate part of a separation of power. On the slide here, it also summarizes the impeachment. One thing I forgot to mention, that once you're impeached, the conviction of impeachment allows you to be removed from office. Generally, these senators and congressmen, has there ever been a vice president to be impeached? Who? Actually, there was a crooked one, and his name was Spiro Agnew, and he came from Maryland, and he had accepted money to give his buddies jobs. He was crooked, and as soon as they realized they were going to impeach him and take him out, he quit. Right? Usually, people quit versus go through the public humiliation of being impeached. And Gerald Ford took over as vice president for Richard Nixon. And guess what? Richard Nixon was a crook, and he got impeached and resigned. So therefore, this guy that came from nowhere became vice president and president in less than a year because of mistakes that his predecessors made.
What is the only time that someone below the rank of vice president is ranked up twice so far?
I'm not sure. I don't know. But the point is, look, if convicted, the people could be held liable under law. So it sort of makes sense that you would quit versus go through a trial and then be held liable under law. The rest of the legislative branches, just like on the picture here, goes through these sections and talks about how tax laws begin, page 302, 303, how bills become law. Studying, actually, when you sit there and go as a civilian, how come we don't make a law that, give me an issue. Why don't we make a law that English is the language of America? You got to speak English to be an American. Well, you have to make a law. You have to have both Congress, both houses of Congress, and the president agree. And something like that, it might even be a constitutional amendment, which takes a long time. But through the different sections of this article in the legislative branch, it goes through the different powers of Congress. Vocabulary on bottom page 303. What is a resolution? What's a resolution?
Legislature's formal expression of opinion.
Yeah, it's a resolution. It's what they sometimes have a resolution from the House of Representatives saying, we believe in Grandma's Day. So it doesn't have anything to do with a bill or a law. It's just a opinion that they put out. Here's something very interesting. I actually read a book about this. What is a letter of marque? Now, why would we need a letter of marque? What is a letter of marque? Actually, Section 8, number 11. What is a letter of marque?
Authority given to a citizen to outfit an armed ship and use it to attack enemy ships in time of war.
So therefore, that gives the powers of Congress the ability to issue letters of marque. Have we ever done that before? Read what it says. What would you do?
Article 1, Section
8:11.
Paragraph 11. To the
Congress
grant letters of marque and reprisal to make rules concerning captures on land and water.
These are all pretty specific things. So here I am, Congressman, and I'm giving Cadet Nick Knickerbocker a letter of marque as a citizen to go outfit an armed ship and use it to attack British ships. Has that ever happened?
Yes.
These are pirates. These are illegal pirates. And yes, it did happen in the Revolutionary War. Could it happen again today?
Easily.
Bill Gates. Let's give Bill Gates a letter of marque and let him go outfit his billion dollar. You could legally do it. It never has happened. But again, back in the old days, the government did not have a navy. But if you had a rich merchant guy who's used to going out and pillaging for your country, that's what they did. It was like a legal pirate. A privateer is what was the term. But we never think about that now. But that is a kind of, and oh, by the way, has it been turned over? Has it been deleted from the Constitution? Still there. We could legally still do that. What if, here, my book that I read was interesting. What if you issued a letter of marque back in the 1700s to the family of the Beans? The Beans from North Carolina, for instance. Does it say that Congress can turn over a letter of marque?
No.
So what if they'd given the Bean family a letter of marque in the 1700s? Does it say you could? Well, how do you turn it over? You grant a letter of marque. It's still there. That's pretty neat. What is an insurrection, guys? Good vocabulary word.
A rebellion, sir?
A rebellion. Yes, exactly. A rebellion. Okay, page 304.
Irish have had some good rebellions.
A very important section. Section 9. Habeas corpus. What does that mean?
Due process.
Due process? I need somebody to please read Section 9 for us. This makes us different in America. Read it, somebody. McGee. Somebody read it.
The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each person.
That's slavery.
Privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion in the census of enumeration herein before to be taken. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another. Nor shall vessels bound to or from one state obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties to another. No money shall be drawn from treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law and a regular statement and account of the recipients and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States. No person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall without the consent of Congress accept of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state.
So what is habeas corpus then? What does it mean? What does it mean?
To be able to punish someone without a jury?
Exactly. And they're saying that you require if it's issued by a judge, requires a law official to bring a prisoner to court and show the cause. So you've got to be able to show cause why you're arresting somebody. Have we ever suspended habeas corpus?
Yes.
Give me an example. What?
Schools.
What now?
Wait, never mind. It's
When you're getting kicked out of school, do we ever tell you why?
Yes.
Okay, that's your habeas corpus. I mean, you're supposed to be given a show cause for holding the prisoner. When have we ever suspended habeas corpus? What did we do during World War II as a prejudicial statement against certain peoples?
Oh, we arrested him for Asian.
Asian. If people looked at you and think you're Japanese, they arrested you and put you in prisoner of war camps, right? In California, Phoenix. Well, actually, Phoenix, you had a German prisoner of war camp, right? But I mean, yeah, we suspended that because it was deemed. What does it say? It deemed cases of rebellion and invasion.
Safety.
Okay, yeah, public safety. So a president can do that. Very rarely does he do that. Okay, Section 10, limits on the state. Very interesting here. No state can make anything but gold and silver coin. No state can make coin money. So when we had the Civil War, did the state of South Carolina decide to make South Carolina money? No, they made Confederate money because that was another country, right? If you flip it back one page to 303, look at this. It says Civil War money. That says the Confederate States of America, $5. I have some of that actually in my family still. And it actually would have the Bank of North Carolina or the Bank of Georgia. It wouldn't have the State of Georgia, the State of North Carolina, because it was illegal. It was illegal for states to make money. You couldn't do that. Can a state grant a letter of marque? No, it has to be a federal government. The president has to sign off on it. Exactly. So there is limits on the states, which this legislative part did it. All right. Article 2. What is it? What branch of service? Which branch of the United States government is Article 2 covered? Executive. Okay. They had the method for electing a president, the qualifications of being in a president's. You can look on page 306 in section 1. Talks about the previous. How did you elect the first presidencies? We changed that. How old do you have to be to run for president? 35. How long do you have to be living in America to run for president?
5 years.
14 years. Good call. Good call. How much does the president make now? A couple million? How much does the president make now? How much does President Obama make for all his stress?
450,000, something like
I think it's 400. It says 400 here. Oh, it does say. Actually, it says 400,000 plus a 50,000 non-taxable expense account. So 450,000. Good job. Yes.
Wouldn't we translate that to today's money?
No. Look. That's how much he makes right now. Look on page 306. Originally, the president's salary was $25,000 a year. The current salary is $400,000. He does have living accommodations, and that's also not including his rent for the White House. Yes, sir.
Are they usually millionaires before they even get in there, though?
Some are, some aren't. Most of them are nowadays because it costs so much to run. You realize prior to the internet and all the modern media, there was nothing. What would you spend money on? I mean, you didn't have to. But now, in my lifetime, yeah, I would say most all the presidents are millionaires before they get there. But it specifically goes through the executive branch. Yes, sir.
I was talking to my government teacher about this. The problem that we've had with both the presidency and with Congress and the House of Representatives and all that is the average person to be in presidency or in the House of Congress is a white male over the age of 35, preferably in the 50s, an older gentleman. They're trying to encourage other people to join in so we get more of a mix of races and colors and people.
Like an African-American president.
Yes, exactly. That's the first time we've ever had that. A lot of people are excited that there's something different, something outside of the norm.
It's what makes America great. It really does. I mean, again, you guys don't realize, but when I was born, John F. Kennedy was elected, and he was Catholic. And prior to that, they had never had a Catholic president. And it was a huge controversy because people cared a lot about Protestant and Catholics. And Catholics were going to take over the world. You got to be kidding me. So, yeah, any kind of change is good, I think, in that realm. Yes, sir.
You said that there was rent for the White House.
There was rent. No, I was joking. I was saying he does not pay rent. That's part of his living. It says his living accommodations. He gets free place to stay, and plus the $450,000. Exactly.
Terrible. If I ran for president and then at the end of it, when I became president, they're like, "Oh, by the way, half your paycheck is going to the White House," I'd be like,
You don't do it for the money. I promise you that, guys. You don't do it for the money. Okay, so we keep going through. He talks about the cabinet. What is the cabinet? What's the president's cabinet? Cadet Walensky, what's the president's cabinet? What's the president's cabinet? What does that mean? Is it a place where he keeps all his clothes?
No, sir.
It's what now?
I'm looking. I don't know, sir. Yeah, I know.
What is the president's cabinet, guys?
It is the assembly of his advisors.
It's his best advisors. His Secretary of Department of Defense, Homeland Security, Commerce, Interior. These are his advisors, his senior advisors for every section of the government. He has different faith in different ones, but basically they're his advisory board. Let's see. Do you see how long the executive article is? It's basically a page. Section 4 talks about them removing the president and all civil Can the Secretary of Defense be impeached?
Yes.
Yes, he's a civil officer. Yes, you better believe it. And they are going to be removed from office if they're impeached. But the executive part of this Constitution is a lot quicker and a lot shorter than the Article 3. What does Article 3 cover, guys? Judicial. What does judicial mean?
Police force.
The police force? You mean the national police force is going to take away all our guns and put the tanks in the courtyard and kill us all? No. Does America have a national police force? No. So what is Article 3 for?
The justice system.
The justice system, right? The judicial branch, okay? Setting up the powers of the Supreme Court, providing for all the other federal courts. And again, this is really, really unusual, guys. These three sections of the government that have the checks and balances on each other is truly what makes America different from every other country in the world. 308, look how short Article 3 is. How long is Article 3? Just 1, 2, 3, da-da-da. Here's a question. I want to get in the Supreme Court. Matter of fact, there was even talk of ex-President Clinton being on the Supreme Court. And that has happened. The president has, done his time and then gone on to be on the Supreme Court. And actually, I can't remember his name to save my neck. But the president could do that. How long are you appointed to be on the Supreme Court? First of all, how long are senators elected for? Senators. 6 years, right? Good job. 6 years. Okay, what about congressmen?
You're on the 8. I think it's like.
What'd you say, Cadet Kramer?
I thought it was for life.
No. Senators are 6 years. Congressmen, House of Representative, how long? How long? 2 years. Yep, they're running all the time. So now, let's say I want to be on the Supreme Court of the United States. How long are you elected for and appointed for there? When do you have to?
When you quit, sir.
Life. I mean life. And they very rarely quit. Except Sandra Day O'Connor, Arizona's very famous female appointee. She did quit for her family's consideration. But basically, the Supreme Court judges are there for their entire life. That is a fact. That's kind of a rather important thing because who determines what the Constitution means?
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court. So let's say you put a bunch of liberals on the Supreme Court. How long is that going to change the liberal interpretation of the Constitution?
180 degrees.
Well, it's going to take until they die, right?
But that's the direction it'll take.
Yes, sir.
What position was Rivendell's dad?
That's state Supreme Court. Arizona State Supreme Court. We have a former cadet whose dad is on the Arizona State Supreme Court. Could that person get into the federal Supreme Court?
Yes, sir.
You could, but actually that's the state laws. Usually the people that go up into the federal Supreme Court are on the federal courts. Is how that generally works. But you can appoint anybody you want to. When they're appointed to the Supreme Court, how many justices are on the Supreme Court? 2? Thank you very much. Try again. 9. 7. 6. Anybody take it? Here, read your article. An odd number. That's pretty good. That's I like that.
You got a 50% chance of getting it.
It's interesting that the actual article does not specify, does it? Read it. When President Bush had an election with Al Gore, and it basically ended up in a tie, a national election, it came down to just a few thousand votes in Florida that would have been Democratic votes because they were Southern Florida people. But the Democratic Party wanted to count those votes, and the Republican Party did not want to. And so that actual argument went to the United States Supreme Court. And in that Supreme Court decision, Bush versus Gore, they voted against allowing the votes to count. And on the Supreme Court, guess what? There were 5 Republicans and 4 Democrats. So the United States Supreme Court chose to throw out votes of American citizens to allow a Republican president to be elected. And Vice President Gore, who was running for presidency, lost. And I am quite sure that he would have won if everybody's vote had counted. But that's America. Love it or leave it. You know, you can sit there and complain about it, whine about it all you want. But it's no different than when we had the last presidential election here. And prior to the presidential election, I did a survey with my students. And how many people you think out of my cadets would vote for President Obama versus, who did he run against this time?
Romney.
Yeah, Mr. Romney. Governor Romney. What do you think that was the vote?
Romney probably.
87% for Romney, right? Because this is a Republican bastion. But did he win presidency by 87%? No, he lost. So what does that tell you about Prescott?
We're wrong.
We are not an accurate representation of the United States.
Prescott is not a representation of the United States. We are abnormal.
And the Republican.
Just like on the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, it depends on who is, right now there's more conservatives on the Supreme Court than liberals. And consequently, the Supreme Court is making generally more conservative decisions. So all these are the checks and balances. So what's so crazy is to think of the Supreme Court making the decision who's going to be president. And that really did happen. Yes, sir.
I heard that the presidency came close, not like within a few votes, but it came.
It was within the statistical improbability. You could not tell who won. And I'm telling you, it came down to a few thousand votes in Florida, which were probably Democratic.
No, I'm saying between this most recent election.
The least recent election was a smear. What are you talking about?
It wasn't that close.
It wasn't close at all.
Oh.
Obama killed Romney. It was not even close.
I heard wrong.
Mitt Romney thought he was going to win because he had poor advice. But President Obama had a very organized election, and they won in the critical states, and it was a smear. Okay, Article 4. Here we go. This is exactly what I was talking about. The federal courts and the state courts. Okay? When you have a federal law, give me an example of a federal law. What's a federal law?
Robbing banks.
No robbing banks, no killing. Yeah, those are pretty federal. You know, tax evasion, when you're paying your federal taxes and you cheat.
No counterfeiting money.
Oh my gosh, that will be very, that's FBI stuff. Say what now?
Impersonating an officer.
Impersonating an officer, that's a federal law. And I'll tell you, we have time. Because of my cadets, I took one of my cadets 1 year. I had a space and astronomy class. And I took my cadets on a field trip to Vandenberg Air Force Base, which is above Los Angeles. It's the western spaceport of America. And we went there to see a rocket launch. Did not launch. So I had an extra day. It was canceled because of technical difficulties. So I had an extra day. What am I going to do? I was supposed to see a rocket launch. So I went to the public affairs, and I was a colonel. And they go, oh, why don't you take your cadets out to swim? So we chose to take our cadets out to swim to a beach. And the beach was on a very huge area of protected seashore around this Air Force base in California. And we walked down to the beach, and it said the western snowy plover, a seabird, was nesting here. And I said, no problem. And they actually had fenced off areas where the bird was nesting. No big deal. It was low tide. So my cadets went out and played football on the low tide. It was fun. And I walked down to the right. Sergeant Martinez, the older gentleman who helped me, Senior Master Sergeant Martinez, he started up the ROTC with me. He was playing football, and all of a sudden we came back, and I saw a Humvee on the beach with guns pointed at my students. And I was thinking to myself, this might not be a good situation. So I went down there and found out that the actual details of the protected area extended down to the low water mark. It was not just in the sand dunes. And so therefore my cadets were playing football, even though they were playing it in a place that is underwater half the time. It was invading the western snowy plover's nesting grounds.
Wow, I remember that.
And guess what? That was not a state law. That was a federal law that we all broke. And so it was pretty important that they were arresting a colonel. And so they came up to me and I said, I can't have my cadets arrested. So I went up to the general in charge of the base. I said, sir, you need to arrest me and you need to arrest Sergeant Martinez. He said, we got to arrest somebody. I go, I'd rather have us arrested than 38 cadets from Prescott, Arizona. A lot of them had never even seen, the Pacific Ocean. They were having a good time. But the bottom line is Sergeant Martinez, I got a ticket. I still have the ticket actually in my office. But it was a federal law that we had broken. And so just like the slide here, Sergeant Martinez and I had to go to a federal court in Santa Barbara, California, and pay a $215 fine, and we were found guilty of violating a federal western snowy plover endangered species mating habitat. So I have a ticket that I'm guilty for. Yes, sir.
Didn't you get off a little easy because one of the students was allergic to the birds?
No, that was a good internet hoax, but I didn't get off easy at all. Matter of fact, I had to take a day off of work just to drive over there to go to the federal court. I couldn't go to it. We did have, at the same time we were being arrested or issued the ticket, we had one of our students had an anaphylactic response because they were allergic to something on the beach. So we had an ambulance come up at the same time, and I had to go to the hospital, and Sergeant Martinez had to stay there and give a pizza party to everybody to keep them happy. So yes, it was a pretty miserable time. I didn't get off her easy. I tell you what, it probably cost me another $500 just to save my cadets from being arrested. Yes, sir.
Was it on the news?
No, I didn't want it to be on the news. I called up the principal, though. Bad news never gets better with age, right? So I called up the principal from the Ms. McCraley, from the hospital. And I said, you want to hear the good news first? Do you want to hear the bad news? And I said, the good news is I do not have 38 students arrested. The bad news, I have, two adults arrested. And oh, by the way, the guy that had the anaphylactic response and almost died didn't. He's okay. Cadet McCormick, Anthony McCormick. You know what happened really is he had never been to the beach. And he was on the beach and he had this, he blew up like a cauliflower. But the rest of the story, and he doesn't mind me telling you this, is, next year he was one of our commanders or whatever. He had another, he got allergic the next time. I go, well, we're not at the beach. He ended up being some kind of, like you guys do, teenage gel or something that you put in your hair. And when it sweat, it came down in his eyes, and there was a specific chemical in that gel that he was completely, horribly allergic to. And it took him about 1.5 years to figure that out. But it was pretty miserable for me, I promise. So I know all about federal courts, and it is not fun. Yes, sir.
How long were you guys playing football there? Like half an hour?
Yeah, half an hour, enough for the sirens to go off and the Hummers to show up. And that was not a day I want to repeat on a field trip.
Wow.
It was, so I know all about federal courts. What kind of state courts, what kind of state laws do you get in trouble with?
Theft.
Breaking and entering. We have kids that go to the state laws, state courts here all the time because they're immature kids. And let's say you're here in Arizona and you get breaking and entering or shoplifting, right? We have kids all the time that are dumb and shoplift. Gee, all right, I'm going to leave Arizona because I fell in love with a girl from Georgia. And I go to Georgia, and I'm applying for a job in Georgia, and it says, have you ever been arrested for anything other than a minor speeding ticket? Do you have to admit it?
Yes, sir.
You better admit it because you've been illegally arrested in a state. All these computers talk to each other, and I promise you in Georgia, the guys go, were you ever arrested in Arizona? Oh, but sir, it wasn't a big deal. It was just shoplifting, breaking and entering. My buddy did it. I didn't do it. Boom, gone. Yes, sir.
Isn't shoplifting a minor crime, though?
It's called arrested. What's the difference between a minor crime and a major crime when you're trying to get hired and the guy's checking to see if you're honest?
If
you've ever been arrested for anything other than speeding, you need to fess up.
Summons by a state or federal court, whether it be you're guilty or not guilty, you're labeled as arrested.
It'll follow you the rest of your life. I told you guys.
If you've been declared innocent, though, they don't exonerate you.
I was 22 years old and I got arrested for reckless driving because I was weaving in my lane trying to put a cassette into my record player, and I was stopped at midnight with not a girlfriend, a friend who was dressed up. We'd been to a fancy prom, and they thought I was drunk, and they had me do all the sobriety tests, and I hadn't drank, but I was weaving in my lane, and so I have been arrested for reckless driving, and to this day, I'm 52 years old. I still have to admit that on every application I ever do. So you need to fess up and be honest. If you've ever had any problems, it will stick with you. We're going to knock it off right here and finish up with Article 4 and 5 and 6 the next time. Cadet Haslam, why don't you come up here and dismiss your class?
Oh, sorry. I have something to ask.
Will we be in here tomorrow, sir? If we are here?
Probably so, yes.
Okay.
Flight! Button! Hot!